Hey, welcome to Steve Davis Show. Special guest today is Paul Howell. Couple titles there. We got owner of Turbo Threads and also running for City Council in District 5 in Rio Rancho.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Paul, thanks for coming over, and also thanks for being, you've supported Proview Networks, and I think that comes from all of all the gear that we wear and all that. So,
yes, sir.
It's great to have you, and also it's kind of a neat that you're running for City Council. So, what made you want to run for City Council?
Oh, I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes wondering that myself. No, seriously, when we moved here to New Mexico back in 2006.
Where did you move from?
Fort Lauderdale. We had moved from Fort Lauderdale. We went through a set of disasters that could only be called biblical within a very short period of time because of stuff that happened at work. I went from being executive vice president of one of the largest imprinted sportswear companies in the Southeast and owning a $500,000 home in Fort Lauderdale to being jobless and homeless. Our house burnt down. I got let go all at about the same time. So we had a...
So you've been on both extremes.
Oh yeah, we had a very unique opportunity to be able to start over wherever. We sold the land, took the insurance money, and where do we want to live? Because we didn't want to live in South Florida anymore. 6 hurricanes in 2 years. That was enough. So we looked for some place that didn't have natural disasters, so New Mexico. And we then started looking within New Mexico, and Rio Rancho looked very good. It has great schools. We had kids in school. It was listed as one of the best places to start a business. So there were a lot of reasons to go to Rio Rancho.
You did some research on New Mexico.
Oh yeah.
I'm born and raised in New Mexico. I'm from Clovis, New Mexico, and came to Albuquerque, but the land of enchantment. It's we hear all the negative things about New Mexico, but New Mexico, it's great to hear somebody that would sought it out.
And we chose to be here. The weather is great. Unless you live in other parts of the country, and I've discovered a lot of people who are down on New Mexico who've lived here haven't really lived anyplace else. And really, in comparison, there's a lot to offer here in New Mexico, and that's one of the reasons that we came here. Also, it was really nice to be able to come to a community that was small enough and big enough that I could run my business, but small enough that you can get involved because, well, where we came from, Fort Lauderdale, is part of Broward County, and Broward County is about 40 miles by about 20 miles in size. It has more people in Broward County than there is in the entire state of New Mexico.
So 1.8 million.
Yeah. So
more.
Yeah, they have like 2 million in Broward County. Right. So you're stuck when you're there. I mean, my son was on the lacrosse team at his high school. They ended up being state champions. There were only 12 lacrosse teams in the state of New Mexico, so you can be a state champion when you make sure you beat all the other 12 teams. Where something like that in Florida, because of the population and everything like that, you might be able to be county champ, but going on to be state champ, something else. So there's something to be said for it being a smaller pond, so to speak, and being able to get more involved in that smaller pond, which is what I was able to do. I started my business. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I was active in the ambassador program. I went through one of their things. They have a great program in the Rio Rancho Chamber called Leadership Sandoval. And it basically is a year-long program where they introduce you to the different leaders in Sandoval County. You go through an education section, you go through a tourism section. Every month there's a different theme to it. You do ride-alongs or you interview local politicians, and you have to do a write-up, you have to do a service project. It's a real interesting thing, and you go through it with this.
Sounds like you're getting a degree.
It's a great program, and you go through it with about 50, 60 other people, and you end up getting very close to those people and make contacts with them. That's how my relationship with, we do a lot of work with Sandoval County Fire Department, and it's because I went through Leadership Sandoval with one of the chiefs. Anyway, one of the things about the program is they really insist that you get involved in local civic duty, that you volunteer for something, you get involved. They impress upon you how important that is. And so after Sandoval, Leadership Sandoval, I actually became part of Keep Rio Rancho Beautiful. They actually have a board, a city board that was Keep Rio Rancho Beautiful, and I served on that for 3 years or so. And actually had to get off it when I was running for city council the first time 4 years ago. It was a conflict and they didn't want me on the board anymore if I was running for city council. But also in that same time I was still active with the chamber. I became a board member with the chamber. And like I said, I was an ambassador, so we went to a lot of the ribbon cuttings and a lot of the new business openings and welcoming businesses to Rio Rancho. About the same time, I got upset with our homeowners association. Didn't like some of the rules that were going on and how they were being enforced, and so I was going to join the board and fix it. And then when you join the board, you kind of find out there are reasons why they do the things they do. And
yeah, it's easier. It's kind of like being a head coach and assistant coach. All of a sudden, you become the head coach, and you're realizing that the head coach that you worked for was pretty smart and
you're kind of like, oh, so that's why they do.
At least you know what? A lot of people wouldn't admit that because most people come in. Would think that they have all the answers, and at least your eyes were open, and you took the time to admit that you didn't have all the answers when you came in.
Yeah, but we've actually done a lot of good work with the homeowners association. We've lowered our dues, which is a nice thing. I mean, we were able to keep it low. We've got a great thing going in the homeowners association that I want to, in some way, shape, or form, stretch out to the city. A thing called a reserve fund. And reserve funds are great. Right? Basically, you put aside a little bit of your money and you build up a fund. And what that fund is used for is the ongoing things, the maintenances that you know are going to be coming that don't have to be a surprise. So instead of, one of our walls needs to be replaced, it's crumbling, and we have to do an assessment of $50 to everybody in the community. Well, if you were smart, you put this money aside and you knew that wall was going to have to be replaced in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, and you have the money to do it at the time. It's like, the same thing with personal savings,
right.
Being able to put a little bit aside for a rainy day. It's the same thing. Well, I've discovered that in Rio Rancho, there is actually no budgeted money for fixing roads. None. There's a department that handles it and they have a budget, but there's nothing specific that we're going to be fixing these roads on this month and these roads and a schedule and a plan and everything like that. It's all kind of haphazard. I mean, there are big projects that we do and that are all scheduled. But as far as the internal roads throughout Rio Rancho, the neighborhood roads and stuff like that, there's no organized plan for how are we going to maintain these roads going forward. So one of the things that I learned working with the Homeowners Association and with the Cabazon PID, because we have a similar thing with the PID, is this concept of a reserve fund so that you can, going forward, not have these problems. That you can go, oh, we have to fix X number of roads this year and it's going to cost us X number of dollars. Maybe you can't put enough aside to be able to do it right away. But if you don't start saving, you're never going to save. And if you don't start putting together a reserve fund, you're never going to have one. So it's something I think we should take a small portion of the city budget, put it aside every year until we get it to the point where we can start using it to have an ongoing thing. I don't know about you, but every, 2-4 years, we get a road bond question here in Rio Rancho. And a lot of times the road bonds, oh great, we're going to, raise taxes again to be able to cover the road bond, or actually it's a rolling thing, so you're not really raising taxes, you're just rolling the raise that happened before over and over again. And if you look at it, there's usually a project in there that's pretty big. Like we recently paved Sarah Road, redid the whole thing, and High Resort was done as part of the road bond, and those are good projects and they big things. But they also use some of the money in the thing to do smaller things that should have just been handled. It's to me, it's almost like buying groceries on your Visa card. When you get to the point where you're having to buy groceries on credit, you're probably not managing your money really, really well, and getting a bond to do the general stuff, I don't think is a good use of bonding. So I'd like to see us wean off that over time and get to the point in Rio Rancho where we're fixing our roads and doing our general maintenance on budget instead of having to get special bonding going forward.
Well, Paul, we're going to go to the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week, and then we're going to come back and talk more about Rio Rancho, running for city council, and maybe a little bit about turbo treads.
That'd be great.
Hits the brakes, and a beautiful dish to Osbos, and she beats the...
Have some space. Throw it to him.
Oyeku.
Go.
He's got to go quick. One to play. He's got to let it fire! And Arroyo steps up and blocks it to end the game.
One with a steal. Rivas thought about the 3-ball there. Oh, and what a pass. What a pass by Maya Rivas. Phillips, a handoff to Munn, and he puts it down. Munn's going to go on the baseline, but he's going to throw it. Look at this. Here comes Munn. Showtime!
For the rebound.
Oh, there
Hits
we
it
go.
ahead. Here comes
There it is. Throw it down, big fella. Throw it down.
one time, Jordan.
Sam Molina, number 11, is also checked in for 3. And here comes Munn. Put it down. Watch this again, Steve. Jalen Munn. That was a great shot right there. Wheeling in. Perfect. Castillo, get it out. Arroyo with a block, and it's a 3-on-1 the other way. Alley-oop. Put it down.
Hello, my name is Paul Howell, and I am running for Rio Rancho City Council District 5. The country is experiencing an economic boom right now, but you wouldn't know it to look at Rio Rancho. We have closed retail, we have roads that are shaking the teeth out of you as you drive down them, and real infrastructure problems like water. We need to get good jobs, we need to get good businesses, and I need your help to get this done. So please consider voting for Paul Howell for Rio Rancho City Council District 5 on March 6th. Early voting begins in February. Thank you very much for your support.
Hey, welcome back to Steve Davis Show. We got Paul Howell here, owner of Turbo Treads. I got to throw in there again a thank you from Proview Networks. Our logos and shirts and even our signs out there have been provided by you, but city, you know, my interest right now is I got some land in basically in the, not in your district, but in, you know, basically northern Unser and northern and Unser, Crossroads across from that Walgreens in that area there. But you know, it just, you know, is, I think one of my biggest things is back to being a local businessman and then and being a local builder. That's my roots where I, you know, started out is you know, the impact fees of the, you know, I mean, it's probably a touchy, I don't know, a touchy subject. Everybody wants economic development, but then if you cut off the horse, you know, that is trying to get it done and they can't afford to do it, then it kills the building industry.
Yep.
Which at one time they were one of the fastest growing cities in the state.
And, you know, well, the entire state took a bit of a downturn about, what, 8 years ago, and and Rio Rancho
But they
wasn't
haven't.
immune,
They're
but
not. I don't think that they're rebounding on the.
we
on
haven't
the,
rebounded yet. No.
Is that a good statement? I mean, if the,
It's pretty accurate. I mean, you can drive around the town, and I mean, there's some stuff that's been done. Recently, the city has decided to rework the fees on commercial property. And so if you're looking to start a business, the impact fees have been lowered. Unfortunately, it appears that they've offset that by keeping the same, or possibly, depending on who you talk to, increasing the impact fees on residential, which is like, you've got to have the three-legged stool when you're trying to build your city. You have to have the jobs, the HPs, the Intels and stuff like that, the high-paying jobs that would bring people here. You have to have the support businesses for that, the retail, the restaurants, the plumbers and things, business supply places, and you need to have the rooftops. You need to have the residential. If you don't have this and this, you can't have this. If you don't have this and this, you can't have this. It all kind of builds on each other. And it seems in Rio Rancho's history that we tend to want to focus on one of the legs and then neglect the other two. And so it's self-defeating. So we need to look at, because there are organizations within Rio Rancho that work on different areas. C, which is Sandoval Economic Development, is a good place for the big jobs. Rio Rancho Chamber of Commerce, one of their good outreaches is small businesses, and so they would be a good thing for the second leg. NAIOB covers a little bit of everything, but they're developers and they can handle residential. So we need to bring like these disparate groups together and all be on the same page, and what projects do we want to do and how do we want to do it. Now, you also know, as a landowner in Rio Rancho, that we have a platting issue that is awful. A lot of our land is owned by second and third generation people, the children and grandchildren of people who bought a $500 acre of land back in the 60s or 70s. And
usually from the eastern part of the country.
Yeah, a lot of them Chicago, a lot of them New York. And so these people think that when they finally get word that there's some development going on, that they've hit the lottery, and suddenly their little piece of land that's worth a couple $1,000s, they want $100,000 for. And in the past, we've had the tool, they allowed eminent domain for community development. That's kind of been taken away. So now we have to get really creative in new ways going forward. And I have some ideas about how to do that, about how to put these plats of land together, how to get people to sell their land for a reasonable amount of money so that we can actually get some development going on in Rio Rancho.
Back to development, you know, I think the one that's always in the news is Intel, and you know, the Intel has really made the community on the map. And can you give me some insight of what might be going on with Intel? Well,
I've heard different estimates as far as how many Intel people left. Okay, because it's not something that they're rounding. But you can estimate that there was about 2,000 employees, that the workforce there has been reduced by about 2,000 employees. We were doing the math the other day, and that's somewhere in the ballpark of $2 billion worth of payroll that is no longer coming to the community. If you figure that, you know, around $100,000, because some people made a lot more and some people made less, but you know, if you average it out to $100,000 with 2,000 people, that's $2 billion of payroll that is no longer coming into our community. So it's, when you start looking at numbers like that, that gets a little scary. We have increased in other areas to offset it, but it's still, that's a loss. The good news is that Intel has recently developed a new kind of communication board. It's a combination board chip thing. It's a technology, and it's photonic. So it's using light to transmit data and to process data on these boards. It will be huge for server farms, for places that do internet transactions. Because right now, if you have a server and you have regular legacy stuff, you have to really worry about temperatures, and it's expensive because the electricity. So if you have a server farm with 1,000 servers, powering your Amazon or whatever, your electricity costs are high, and they're even higher because you have to basically refrigerate the place. You have to really keep it cool. These boards will actually lower the temperatures of everything, and they use less power, so it'll be a lot cheaper for a lot of companies going forward to be able to have big websites and things like that. And Rio Rancho is on the cutting edge of this technology. It is our location that is doing this, and so I'm very excited. I've talked to Intel people, and they are very optimistic that it's definitely not going to get smaller at the current plant. I'm assured that they're not going to lose any more employees, and depending on how well this is adopted going forward, it could actually mean an increase of employees at the Intel plant, which would be a great thing.
Paul, we're going to go to another little break, and we're going to come back and talk more Rio Rancho about being elected for the City Council of District 5.
That'd be great.
Almost 30 years of experience means fast service, great prices, and a wide selection of apparel from t-shirts to performance sports shirts, even jackets and hats. They feature low minimums and no setup charges on most orders. Turbo Threads is located at 1503 Golf Course Road in Rio Rancho, or find them on Facebook, online at turbothreads.com, or call 999-1234 for Turbo Threads.
Hello, I'm Paul Howell, and I'm running for City Council District 5 in Rio Rancho. Rio Rancho has some challenges going forward in the future. While the rest of the country is experiencing economic growth, Rio Rancho is having some real issues. We've got the golf course that has closed down recently. We've got retail. In addition, we've got infrastructure problems with water and roads. I'd like your help and your support in solving these pressing issues with our city. So please consider me for District 5 seat in Rio Rancho when you vote on March 6th. Early voting starts in beginning of February as well. Thank you, and I appreciate your support.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. We got Paul Howell running for Rio Rancho District 5 City Council. And I'm going to ask the $1 million question. And this is untypical of Steve Davis, because I usually don't put people on the spot and don't do this, but you're in the political world, so you got to wear that on your back, because that's going to be, you got to be direct with people. What makes you different than anybody else running for City Council? Just make it real simple.
Well, as a small business person, I do have a pretty good insight.
That's Turbo Threads.
Turbo Threads, yes. Owner of Turbo Threads. And if you know what Turbo Threads does, we actually work with small businesses. Our whole thing at Turbo Threads is helping...
And sports.
And sports. But helping businesses improve their image. We work with companies, and we get a lot of startups, people who are just beginning, who come in, and we hear the stories of people of the difficulties they have starting a business in Rio Rancho with the inspections and the licensing procedures and stuff like that. And so that's troublesome for a city that says they're trying to get businesses in, and then I get a guy who's opening a coffee shop.
That's the guy like me looking out inside, and that's why I bring up the impact. But you want business, but then, to start off, you might as well come in and write a $20,000 check just to get your plans checked through the city to see if it's going to work. It's very
expensive, and it's a long, drawn-out process, and time is money.
Compared to
some of the other communities.
To Albuquerque, okay, just a border town.
Yep. And so, as that, I got interesting insight. One of the other things is, the guy I ran against 4 years ago, he worked in Santa Fe. And so he was never able to meet with his constituents. He worked for the city, the state in Santa Fe. And because of that, it was against the law for him to meet with constituents during working hours. And he had a long commute, and so no one could ever really get in touch with him.
So you have an open policy.
Okay. I'm a business owner with a retail operation on a main drag in the middle of my district. If anybody wants...
Give us the location of that, because that is a nice...
It's 1503 Golf Course Road. We are 3/4 of a mile south of Southern.
Big sign when you're right.
Yellow sign.
I found it right off the bat the first time I went out. So.
Yellow sign, can't miss the building. Open 8:30 to 5 Monday through Fridays, and you can come in and talk to me anytime. You have a concern, you have a this or that. Yeah, you can email me if that's more convenient, and pjhowellnm@msn.com, and I'm sure I'll get, if I get elected, I'll have a city email address as well. But if anybody wants to talk to me about something that concerns them, I have an open door policy. Now, you may be talking to me while I'm standing there printing shirts.
I've learned that. I've learned it myself.
We've actually done that.
Okay, so I've been there.
Because sometimes, you know, you just got to help.
You might have four other people you're trying to do business with, but, you know.
But I will listen, and we will discuss whatever your concerns are. And I think having that level of open door for a constituency makes me a little bit different than even the current woman who was appointed. She's a stay-at-home mom with 2 small kids. I've been told she has a hard time even sometimes going to the workshop meetings and stuff like that. And God bless her. You know, stay-at-home moms are the backbone of this country. You know, nuclear family. I'm all for it. But it does kind of make it hard to be a city councilor when you can't necessarily go to the workshop meetings and stuff like that. She's done a great job of representing District 5, but I think I could do a better one.
What is District 5 intake? What's the boundaries?
Pretty much south of Southern, east of Unser, and then when you get to the other side of 528 over by Meadowlark area where Southern becomes Meadowlark, it's like someone took their hand and just kind of like grabbed. It's weird. It jaggles and jiggles a little bit just north of it. So definitely if you're south of Southern and east of Unser, you're definitely in my district. If you're over in that Meadowlark area, you might be in my district. It's a little bit confusing, but that's pretty much the district. So it's the one that borders Albuquerque on the south end, which is why economic development, especially in District 5, would be a good thing. Because we have to not only worry about dollars going down the hill. Everybody, you know, we have a great Buy Rio Rancho program in our city, and I'm very much in favor of it, especially as a small businessman. Buy Rio Rancho is great when you're telling the residents, but we need to tell people in Albuquerque to buy Rio Rancho. We have to have reasons for the dollars to come up the hill. We have to have attractions, we have to have shopping, we have to have restaurants that people in Albuquerque want to come to Rio Rancho for. And I think that's going to be one of the ways that we can increase the gross revenues in our city without actually increasing taxes and get some of the programs, fully fund our police who do a great job. We love our public safety people, our fire, Parks and Rec, making sure that we have the quality of life that we deserve in Rio Rancho. But we need money to do this, and the best way for us to get money without negatively impacting the people that live in our area is to improve the quality of life through better retail and better jobs and do things that bring revenue into Rio Rancho.
Well, and I have this is kind of off the air or off the deal, but you know, you got Santa Ana Star, that nice facility for sports. I mean,
it's great.
I mean, once, you know, the knock on it, I'll just be honest, is the drive out there. But once you're out there, boy, that is a
but
nice
what's
facility.
Funny is, you know, in talking to people from Albuquerque, you'd think it was in Arizona. You know, wow, you know, I got to go way out there. From Paseo and I-25, it's about a 20-minute drive. That's not really that far. When you have the right stuff, Carrie Underwood, when she came out, that concert sold out in 10 minutes. It was a big enough draw. She went to the Star Center. It was great. But then you turn around and somebody like Elton John comes to town and he goes to Tingley, and it's like, hold on, we got a much nicer facility out in Rio Rancho, but there's this reputation that people in Albuquerque won't come to the Santa Ana Star Center. So we need to work on that. It's been discussed that the city needs a better, more effective public relations department that works with the current businesses and stuff to promote Rio Rancho to people outside of Rio Rancho.
Well, Paul, we're going to be coming to an end. When's the day to get elected?
Okay, early voting starts Valentine's Day. So, you know, on Valentine's Day, you can start voting at several polling places. Definitely City Hall is probably the best place to go. And then on March 6th, so a month from yesterday, is the actual election.
Well, we want to wish you very well good luck, and also we want to thank you for being a sponsor of Proview Networks. And Paul, hey, thanks for being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.